Joining us on the line right now is former Miss Nevada, who was stripped of her crown because she is a Donald Trump supporter. I want her to explain that, and she is also running for the school board for the Clark County School District. That is Katie Williams. Katie, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Hey, what's up, Katie?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So a lot of questions to get to, Katie. You've had some controversial tweets. We'll get to that a little bit later, but I want to focus on where I defended you, and that was. And by the way, I'm not a Trump supporter by any means, but I still defended you, and the reason why I did is at the time you were Miss Nevada, and they stripped you of your crown, basically. And correct me if I'm wrong, just because you did some positive pro-Trump tweets. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually, so the way it worked in the pageant is that you had to have a pageant page and you could have your personal page. And so you were allowed to post whatever you wanted on your personal page as long as you did not put politics or extreme religion things like on your pageant page. So pageant page was strictly pageantry, and then your personal page could be whatever it was. So I had posted, my pictures and my posts on my personal page. And the pageant system you did not approve, and they kicked me out for it. So.
Well, I think that's absurd. I think that's completely ridiculous. If you say something racist, and I'm not saying you did, or if you said something that is extremely hurtful to someone, or then I'm on their side. But to my knowledge, you didn't do that, right? All you did was make some pro-Trump comments, correct?
Yeah, and really, it was more so pro-America. I love my country and I support my president. And really, I support a lot of public figures just because I don't want them to fail, especially if they're making decisions over my life.
Well, listen, I'm not a Trump supporter, but I never wanted Donald Trump to fail. Because if he succeeds, the country succeeds. So let's get into that a little bit. I know you're running for the school board, so we'll get into that here in a little bit. But let's talk about Donald Trump. All I can do is tell you why I don't support Donald Trump, and then I want to get your opinions on why you do. But hopefully you'll understand where I'm coming from here. 95% of the reason why I do not support Donald Trump because I think he's an awful human being, and it has nothing to do with politics. Going after POWs, going after women based on looks. Just recently in the last week, focused on calling Joe Scarborough a murderer, conspiracy theories, making it about himself, not showing empathy towards others, siding with evil, murderous dictators on a world stage. These are just some of the reasons why I think he's an awful human being. That's why I can't support this man. So what's your side of that? Do you understand where I'm coming from, and why do you support this man?
Yeah, so I understand where a lot of people are coming from when they say they don't like President Trump because of the way he tweets out or his rhetoric or how he talks to people or describes people. And I think what most people have to understand is, where is he coming from and what's he trying to accomplish? Because it's never just at face value. There's always someone behind him kind of saying, hey, do this or do that. And you can really tell when his aide staff is tweeting for him or when it's him tweeting for him. And I've said this multiple times, when you actually watch him speak in person, you can tell when he's ad-libbing his own stuff and when he's not. And he's very good at creating, conversations about him. And he was said once, quoted, he actually said that, if I get up in the morning and I don't like what the news cycle is saying, I just send out a tweet and it all changes and it comes right back to me. So that's kind of his stardom effect that he does. He actually knows how to bring the conversation back to him constantly. And you saw this a lot, too, when he had Nancy Pelosi actually fighting with AOC. He got into it and brought the conversation back to him, and it stopped the infighting, which I didn't necessarily agree with. I figured they should just, do their thing. So,
no, listen, I understand. I don't necessarily disagree with you, Katie. But during a pandemic, do you think that is appropriate to be talking about the ratings, of his press conferences during a pandemic? Do you think, I guess what I'm trying to ask you, even though I don't necessarily disagree with you, do you think that's appropriate for the president to behaving that way?
Well, I don't necessarily think it's not appropriate in the sense that I think that sometimes the country needs good news. They need hope. They don't need to see a cycle or a Twitter feed or a Facebook feed that's constantly full of negativity. And so just seeing every now and then, hey, look, we had 100,000 people recover this weekend. That's awesome. It's not that we don't mourn the people that we've lost during the pandemic or the people that we've lost because of the coronavirus in general. And that's people just who didn't have the virus, people, who committed suicide due to isolation, and people who have been in domestic abuse cases and unfortunately have died. It's not that we don't mourn those people, but we do need, as humans, we need some positivity in our lives every single day.
And Brian, keep in mind that when he made those tweets, that was after CNN and MSNBC and several other news outlets were not showing his press conference. And he was basically saying, why would you not show a press conference that people want to see? You're actually costing yourself money because the ratings are so high. I think that's why he made those statements. It was more in response to them, basically refusing to air it.
Okay, well, that's up to MSNBC and CNN, and it's not the prerogative or up to the President of the United States to tell the media how to do their job. That's number one. Number two, I will push back.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Number two, Katie, here's where I will disagree with you a little bit. You talked about being positive. I agree with you. There's nothing wrong with being positive. But it's a fine line. What is positive about going after a woman based on her looks? He did that with Nancy Pelosi's teeth last month. What is positive about a conspiracy theory about accusing Joe Scarborough of murder? And then when the family speaks out and says, Mr. President, please stop, he doesn't apologize and he doubles down. What is positive about doing that? I mean, there are things that he does almost on a daily basis that's not positive.
Right. But so that's two different arguments, right? So you're talking about the Joe Scarborough thing, and then you're also talking about the Nancy Pelosi thing. What I'm talking about is the daily press conferences when he comes and he addresses the nation, that he actually needs to say something positive about his ratings, or he needs to say something positive about the stock market or job economy. If he doesn't say things like that, then, it doesn't become positive. It just becomes him hitting hits, right? Well, Nancy Pelosi did the same thing. She called him morbidly obese, right? And so he hits back. He's never been the guy that's just going to lay there and take it, and that's why he was elected. Because we finally saw this politician or non-politician as it be that would actually hit back, and we don't like playing dirty politics. We don't like it, but if you're going to play it, you got to know how to take the hits, but you have to know how to hit back too. And then with the Joe Scarborough thing, he needed to say something about it in a sense that there's a story there. I mean, you have an aide who was found underneath his desk with a blow to the head, and not a single arrest was made.
But with all due respect, but with all due respect, the story is there was and again, I'm going to disagree with you. There was an investigation. Okay, it happened many years ago. Not the president, not someone who doesn't have the information, because the president doesn't. There was a police professional investigation that showed that it was an accidental death. So why is it the president's duty? If you want to say Joe Scarborough's a piece of garbage or something like that, I don't agree with it, because I think the president should be held to a higher standard. But even if he did that, I wouldn't have as much of a problem with it as putting up a conspiracy theory saying that Joe Scarborough basically is a murderer. And then when the family asks the president to stop, he doubles down on it. You don't have a problem with that?
Well, I don't really, because I do think there's a story there, and I think it would be.
What do you mean there's a story there? I don't understand what you mean when you say there's a story there.
I think it would be ignorant for us to sit there and say that, I think it would be ignorant for us to say that, police investigations are always perfect, right? They're just not.
Nobody's saying that.
Anybody that works in law enforcement is saying that. So, I mean, why is it, unquestionable to think that maybe something was missed back then?
Okay, and Brian, he did not accuse him.
So Joe Scarborough actually went on air, and actually joked about this intern's death.
That doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it right.
And I had a bigger issue with the president than they had with Joe Scarborough. Then I'm sorry, but then they're kind of hypocrites at that point.
Okay, and I talked about that on the show, and I don't agree with what Joe Scarborough did in laughing about a death, but I don't think that should excuse. And that's not an excuse for the president and the leader of the free world. It is a conspiracy theory because there's no evidence to back up the fact that there's a story that maybe Joe Scarborough is a murderer. There's no evidence to back up that claim. That's why I call it a conspiracy theory. And what I'm saying is there should be a higher standard for the president of the United States than someone who does a talk show.
Okay, but who dictates the standard, though?
So you're okay. Well, I'm going to ask you if you're going to dictate it. You're saying that you're okay with the president of the United States, who I understand you support, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that at all. But you're saying you have no problem with the leader of the free world going after a member of the media because the member of the media doesn't say nice things about him. So you're okay with him basically calling that member of the media a murderer, even when the family is asking the president to stop, and you have absolutely no problem with that.
Here's my thing. I have no problem with anybody in this country expressing their freedom to speak their mind.
Even if they're wrong.
The president. So
even if he's wrong.
You're allowed to be wrong as a human being. You're all wrong at one point or another. So even if he's wrong and it's proven that he's wrong, I highly doubt he would come out and apologize, but that's his right. As president, as a person that lives in America, as a U.S. citizen, he has the right
You
to
are
say what he
absolutely
wants as long
right.
as he's
You
not
are
inciting
listen.
violence.
You are absolutely right. The president has the right to say stupid things and embarrass the country. You're absolutely
You know
right.
what, Brian? He didn't. You're making it seem like he openly accused him. No,
Yeah.
he suggested
We know what he suggested.
that an investigation be
Right.
reopened.
We understand that.
Just the same thing he suggested with Joe Biden and Hunter Biden
we
and
understand.
Burisma.
We understand.
The exact same thing took place.
Many people.
Right.
You know, it's not just Joe Scarborough. He does it with many people. He did it with Jim
Which
Acosta.
doesn't make it
he
right.
did it with
Right.
He did it when the coronavirus broke out into the U.S. and he did the travel ban. Like, he does it multiple times. I'm not saying that what he does all the time makes it right. I don't necessarily always like the way that he delivers things, but at the end of the day, he gets accomplished what he needs to get accomplished. If he sees something that needs to be, attention brought to it, he's going to say something about it. And like JD said, he's never going to directly say, like, hey, he's a murderer, because at that point, then you can sue him for all kinds of, slander and libel and everything else, right? But he is going to infer that maybe there's something there that was missed, because how many times, ask retired police officers, retired detectives, how many times has a cold case been opened and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we missed this, or I can't believe we didn't have the evidence for this, and then there's gentlemen and women that get convicted and serve 20 years in prison, and then finally some evidence shows up and says, oh wait, they didn't do it, and so then
All right, well,
their lives.
fair enough, but
I think he's just inferring that there could be something there. Now,
which there's no evidence to back that up.
Okay, so see, and I understand your concept, but at the same time, who holds the standard of how our president is or isn't supposed to act?
Well, I think us as Americans should be able to hold any politician to a higher standard, particularly if the leader of the free world.
I agree, but at the same time, everyone has a different opinion. So you and I, right, where we may agree on some things, we're not going to agree on everything, and our standard of etiquette is going to be different.
I suppose our standard of etiquette should be different. You're right. But if you have a daughter and your daughter is dating a man who says, I can grab them by the P word, they let me do it because I'm famous, I'm sure you probably wouldn't want your daughter dating somebody like that. Now, I vote differently than maybe others vote. The way I vote is not based on policy. The way I vote is based on starting with, if you are a decent human being.
But Brian, you're using this, the statement that Donald Trump made on a radio show as evidence, but you're dismissing the statement.
On a radio show.
Okay, well, you're dismissing the statement that Joe Scarborough made with Don Imus.
Joe Scarborough is not the president of the United States.
No, and neither was Donald Trump when he made that statement. Donald Trump was not an elected official when he made that statement.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Katie?
Yeah, he wasn't an elected official. I said the standard's not necessarily different.
That is not okay. So I hold everybody accountable.
Finish, right? I hold people in the media at a high standard, and when I see false narratives and fake news spun, and it bothers me so badly, right? So I do not. I hardly ever speak out against media because I know that they're going to say false things. They did a bunch of hit pieces on me, a while back. But they do it all the time, and they do it to spin a narrative, and it bugs the crap out of me. And, other than that, other than calling them directly out on it, there's not much you can do. So I hold them at a high standard, but I also hold my politicians at a high standard, because the problem with politicians, a lot of them forget who are they elected to serve, right? They are elected to serve. It is the one time that taxpayers can say, hey, my taxes pay your salary, because at that point it's true.
I agree. I agree with you. And all I'm simply saying is I think, and you can disagree, I think that we need to hold the president of the United States to a higher standard. Look, you're somebody who is running for the school board. I respect your opinion. You sound like a very smart lady. And by the way, I defended you on the air. I did. Even though I can't stand Trump and I think he's a scumbag, I defended you because I think you have the right to your opinions, political opinions. And listen, they should not have stripped you of Miss Nevada. I am on your side. But here's where I think, and we can disagree on politics, and that's fine. But here's where I completely disagree with you, and maybe we can talk about this, and maybe you can clear this up for me. I know you're not an Ocasio-Cortez fan. There's a lot of Republicans that are not, and that's fine. But Ocasio-Cortez, told her followers to stop crowding bars, restaurants, and public spaces a few months ago. I think that was a pretty accurate thing to say based on where we were a few months ago with social distancing and what have you. So you tweeted this out. You said, I just went to a crowded Red Robin and I'm 30. It was delicious, and I took my sweet time eating my meal because this is America, and I will do what I want. Do you regret tweeting that out? Do you think it was irresponsible, and would you like to apologize for that tweet?
First, I will now apologize, and here's why. Let me explain, okay? No, I'm not a fan of Ocasio-Cortez. I respect her right as a congresswoman to say whatever she wants, and I expect her right as an American citizen to say whatever she wants. what I was doing in that tweet, and most of my friends who knew me knew exactly what I was doing, because a few days prior she had said it was racist not to go to Chinese restaurants because they thought that they were going to they were going to catch the coronavirus, or back then the media was calling it the Wuhan flu or the Wuhan virus or whatever they were calling it, right? They were calling it this. Yeah. And so I tweeted that out because I was just trying to show the hypocriticism that she has, right? Now, I didn't expect it to blow up, but when you're on Twitter, when you're in the internet, or when you're, I guess, in a public figure light, you never know really what's going to go viral. I've probably said worse things than that, but I've never said anything that's not true, right? And so I'm not going to apologize for it, because I think within the first 4 hours, I got probably about 400 death threats, and I still
I don't agree with that.
Apologize for it.
I don't agree with that.
I don't either.
But here's where I think you were wrong. And again, you tell me if you think I'm wrong. At the very at the very least, you could have worded this a lot better, Katie. Can we at least agree on that? When you say because this is America,
I think I could have worded it better, but I also think at the same time, why should I have to change my verbiage in order to make other people feel better?
Well, because it could. Listen, I'll tell you why. I'll answer your question. Because you have a lot of followers. And there are some ignorant people out there in the world, whether they're Donald Trump supporters or they listen to my show or you. I think you're a public person, right? And people are going to hang on to what you say. Now, if somebody read that and you said, because this is America, I'll do what I want. And they read what Katie Williams says, because I'm a Katie Williams fan, and they think, well, maybe I shouldn't have to practice social distancing. I'm going to do what I want. I'm not going to practice social distancing. Do you see how your words could harm people?
Well, here's the thing, too. So even after that tweet had gone viral, so slightly before that and even after that, I kept saying, I said, we should always take precautions, and we should always understand that this virus is real, right? I never said it was a hoax. I never said it wasn't real. I never said it wasn't coming to America and infecting people. What I said is that we cannot live in fear. We have lived through worse, and we will get better. Like, we will come out of this on the other side, and we will come out stronger, and we will recover. Right? We've done this many, many times. When you look at, H1N1, I think back in 2000 and I think it was 12.
But this is more serious than H1N1. This is a pandemic.
No, I understand that. But same thing with Zika and Ebola and everything else. We have hit these viruses many times before, and we have taken precautions each time. The only difference now is that it's never happened during the administration of Trump. And so how are we going to, see how the media reacts unless we have a pandemic? Now, I'm not saying that it was made to test President Trump. I don't think that at all. I think that sometimes nature just has a way of kind of sticking it to us, Right. But it's how we react to it is how we are going to come out of this. And I'll tell you, whoever reacted to this tweet that I had sent out, how you reacted to that tells me where you're at on a maturity level and where you're at on an emotional level and where you're at on a spiritual level. Because most people that supported me during that didn't get bothered by the way I said it, because they kind of understood what I was doing. And then if they continued to follow me, they would see that, hey, take this seriously, but do your due diligence, and you can still live your life. That's the thing.
I guess this is my question. How could you say that, you're talking about taking it seriously, but yet you're putting out a tweet that says you're bragging about being not just at a restaurant, but being at a crowded restaurant? You added that in there. And then you said... So why am
I the only one that's in trouble if it was crowded, right? Clearly I'm not the only one there.
I didn't say you were the only one that was not practicing social distancing, but you appear to be the only one that was bragging about it and then saying, this is America, I'll do what I want. I agree with you. If there were other people that were not practicing social distancing either, I would criticize them as well. But number one, you have a platform. You're a public celebrity. You're a public person. And even though I agree, I believe you that your friends might have understood what you were trying to say going after Cortez, there's a lot of people like myself that don't know that. So all I'm trying to get you to do, and I can't force you to say something. I should have chose my words
Brian
differently.
Just expects perfection.
Well, no, listen, if you're not going to do it,
that's completely reasonable.
No, this isn't about that's a ridiculous statement.
No.
This has nothing to do with perfection. He
wants you to be Katie Poppins.
No, I don't. That's another ridiculous statement. All I'm trying, and I think, Katie, you're a smart woman. You understand what I'm saying here. You did not choose your words properly. That's all. And if you don't want to apologize for that, I can't make you. I just think you're smarter than this, and you shouldn't have put that tweet out. I thought it was a mistake.
Well, I mean, I guess it's a level of perspective, right? I'll agree that I probably could have worded it a little bit differently. However, I don't think that the message was unclear. A lot of people you've scrolled Twitter for longer than 5 minutes. You know that everybody on there is
Sure.
pretty much hateful.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, there's a lot of hate on there. There's no question.
They're just there to be hateful towards people under pseudonyms and everything else like that. That's why we go to Instagram for positivity. So,
well, Katie, very soon Twitter is going to be held legally liable if this executive order that Trump signs comes through. I got a question about.
I think it's interesting.
It's a good thing, and we're going to see a lot less fake accounts. Everything will have to be vetted. But I have a question about just the whole situation with Miss Nevada. So Steve Sisolak becomes a Democratic governor in 2018. August 19th or August 18th, 2019, you are stripped of your crown because of your political beliefs. Do you believe that there was pressure from the state for that to take place?
I don't think at that time there was. I don't think Governor Sisolak even knows who I was back then, so which is fine. I think this is strictly just between myself and the pageant director themselves, and that what they felt was necessary. I don't think they wanted to, and I get it, right? It's their private business, and I said this on my video when I got stripped. I said it's their business; they can do what they want. But if you're going to hold me accountable, you have to hold everyone else accountable because I wasn't the only contestant that was posting things like that.
And to be fair, I'm sorry, Katie. To be fair, I want to say I defended you on that, and I will continue to defend you on that. But since we only have about a minute to go, and I appreciate you coming on our show, I want to give you time. We got about a minute left here. I'm sorry to rush you, but you're running for the school board, CCSD. Why should people vote for you? And just tell us a little bit about your platform.
Yeah, so again, my name's Katie Williams. I'm running for CCSD District C Board of Trustees. My biggest deal with the platform is that I just want parents to be able to choose their curriculum for their children and choose their schools for their children. I am a conservative. I've never hid that fact. I do support my elected officials. And the biggest thing here is that I just want people to understand that, if I'm fighting with pure strangers, I will fight for your children. Because I have a daughter, right? I want her to go to the best school possible and get the best education possible, just like any mother or any parent would. So yeah, I'm a fighter, and I'm not paid by unions or anything like that. I'm actually donating my entire salary back to those teachers and the school programs and the actual school supplies that they're going to need for these programs. So if people want to join me, my website's katiewilliamsnv.com, and so it's got a link to all my websites and everything like that. They can go ahead and get on there and log on.
Well, Katie, we've had a lot of people on this show that I don't always agree with, some of whom I don't have respect for. I do have a tremendous amount of respect for you. You're a very smart lady, and I would absolutely support you on the school board because I think you'd be good for the city of Las Vegas, and we wish you the best of luck, and I appreciate you taking some time to join us, even though we do disagree on some things. I think you stated your case well, and love to have you on again sometime, so I appreciate your time, Katie, okay?
Absolutely. All right,
thank you
guys so
thanks
much.
a lot, Katie.
Appreciate it.